We will now transition to the second part of our event, something that was so dear to Rav Steinsaltz, learning Torah together. I'm happy to introduce four of Rabbi Steinsaltz's very close students as we join them in learning a piece of the Talmud that addresses our theme. There is no aspect of Judaism that presents this concept of seeking wisdom through diversity more than our Talmud. The Talmud is rich in endless discussions, disagreements, and disputes in the goal of seeking and exploring God's wisdom. We're excited to learn the source from the brand new portal of the Steinsaltz Center. We welcome you all to enjoy the many resources from the portal and the link we have attached. Joining us today in our learning session are Rabbi Menachem Even Yisrael, son of Rav Steinsaltz. Rabbi Even Yisrael is the CEO of the Steinsaltz Center, which serves as the umbrella organization for all Steinsaltz functions. The Steinsaltz Center continues to be fully active with many new learning initiatives, including the Steinsaltz Library Portal. Mr. Arthur Kurzweil, a student of Rav Steinsaltz for many years. Arthur is an author, educator, editor, writer, publisher, and illusionist, and we are happy to have him with us. Rabbi Pini Alush. Rabbi Alush, a longtime student of Rav Steinsaltz, is the rabbi and founder of the Beth Tefillah Synagogue in Scottsdale, Arizona, and the founder of the Nishmat Adin High School in Arizona. Rabbi Michael Falk. Rabbi Falk is Rosh Yeshiva of the Steinsaltz Yeshiva and will be guiding us in this learning session. Finally, at the end of the session, we have the privilege and the honor to sum it all up with words about the same topic from Rav Steinsaltz himself in a wonderful video. Rabbi Falk, please.
I'll start with the L'chaim. Thank you for all of you guys joining us, dear friends from around the world. L'chaim. The Neshabes Ha'aben Aliyah, the soul of Rabbi Steinsaltz that was so dear to all of us, he should have that uplifting together with all of us, and through our learning now together from his Talmud and from so many other books. L'chaim. The piece of Talmud that we chose over here relates to Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish both were great sages at the beginning of the Jerusalem Talmud. The truth is that Rabbi Yochanan, he was probably the scholar, the Talmudic scholar, that thanks to Rabbi Yochanan, the Jerusalem Talmud exists. Now, Rabbi Yochanan was so central in the Jerusalem Talmud that Rabbi Yochanan is mentioned so many times also in the Babylonian Talmud. The relationship between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, who also happened to be later on his brother-in-law, was a very interesting, complex relationship, which started from Rabbi Yochanan, who was a great scholar, and Reish Lakish, who was probably the opposite. He was busy getting into trouble as a thief, or as they call it, melastem et habriot in Hebrew. Rabbi Yochanan, who met Reish Lakish in one of those exciting moments, tells him, your strength is so amazing, you can use that strength for Torah, for studying. He invites him to devote his strength for the Jewish nation and for the Torah. And at that moment, Reish Lakish, after a very interesting negotiation they have between the two of them, which ends up, Rabbi Yochanan offers him his beautiful sister, they become a chavruta. They become partners learning Torah together. And this is what we want to talk about over here and learn together with Rabbi Kurzweil, with Rabbi Alush, with Rabbi Meni Even Yisrael. I will quickly go through this short piece of Talmud, and then ask from you three to give your own insights, own comments, and I hope that you don't agree. And I hope we'll see here an interesting argument between the three of you. So I will start from the Steinsaltz edition that you all can see on the Zoom attached. And of course, afterwards, you could go into the link that was attached and enjoy the portal that has the full piece of Talmud and many, many other special, precious books of the Rabbi. Nach nafshei de Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Reish Lakish, Rabbi Shimon, the son of Lakish, died. Rabbi Yochanan, who was his very, very close chavruta, partner in learning, was sorely pained over losing him. The rabbi said, who will go to calm Rabbi Yochanan's mind and comfort him over his loss? Ve'ava kamitztai Rabbi Yochanan batrei tuva. Amru Rabbanan man leizi litvei ledate. The rabbis come up with a great idea. Nezil Rabbi Elazar ben Pedat de mechadedin shmatete. Rabbi Elazar ben Pedat was a very close student of Rabbi Yochanan and a tremendous scholar of his own. He is not the subject of this specific piece of Talmud, but there are many pieces of Talmud that talk about Rabbi Elazar. They thought Rabbi Elazar will be the perfect match to study and comfort Rabbi Yochanan. How do you comfort Rabbi Yochanan? Through being his chavruta, learning together with Rabbi Yochanan. Azal Yativ Kamei. Rabbi Elazar, that great sage, went and sat before Rabbi Yochanan. Kol milta da'ava amar Rabbi Yochanan, amar leitanya de Messiah lach. Rabbi Yochanan, with regard to every matter that Rabbi Yochanan would say, Rabbi Elazar ben Pedat would say to him, there's a ruling which is taught in a Beraita, previous from the time of the Mishnah, that supports your opinion. What was Rabbi Yochanan's reaction? One might think that Rabbi Yochanan was overjoyed. He was so happy to hear from Rabbi Elazar ben Pedat that those from the Mishnah, the sages before him, said the same. Rabbi Yochanan said to him, are you comparable to the son of Lakish, Reish Lakish? In my discussions with the son of Lakish, when I would state a matter, he would raise 24 difficulties against me. He would argue with him. He would try to disprove my claim. And I would answer him with 24 answers. And now listen to what says Rabbi Yochanan. And the halacha by itself would become broadened and clarified. And you say to me, there's a ruling which is taught in a Braita that supports your opinion. Do I not know that what I say is good? Rabbi Yochanan wasn't comforted at all by his new chavruta. He was looking for Reish Lakish. He was looking for a partner that would argue with him, that would challenge him. And this is how the story ends. Please, Reb Kurzweil, my dear friend Arthur, I miss you dearly. I hope we get to sit and study together, not on Zoom, very soon. Please share with us your thoughts on this beautiful piece of Talmud.
One of the pieces of the passage from the Talmud that you may have left out that has some relevance here is that Rabbi Yochanan reminded Reish Lakish that he used to be a crook. He used to be a thief. And Reish Lakish was insulted, seemingly insulted. It reminded me of an incident that happened to me when I was about 45 years ago. I was introduced to the Talmud by a teacher. We studied once a week. And at one point, he suggested that I buy a set of the Sonsino Talmud, which at the time was the only English language Talmud that we had. So I bought the set of books, and the teacher said to me, why don't you get some of your friends together, and to inaugurate the book, you could teach a little bit of from the Talmud. So I invited some friends over, and I opened it to a page that I had planned to speak about, and I spoke about it, and I dare say it was pretty good, what I said. At which point the Talmud teacher looked at me and said, Kurzweil, I remember when you used to eat bacon cheeseburgers. So I've been thinking about that for the last 45 years. I've thought about other things too, but I've thought about for the last 45 years, was that a compliment or was that an insult? Originally, I took it as an insult. You're reminding me of a past that I'm not so eager to remember. I've been born again. On the other hand, it could have been a compliment. Kurzweil, look how far you've come. Isn't it wonderful? So Rabbi Yochanan said to Reish Lakish, you know about this, how to finish off a sword, because you used to be a bandit. You used to be a crook. Now, the issue is that, why are you reminding me of my past? So I've been wondering about insults and insults in the Talmud. In fact, I found a book called Talmudic Insults and Curses. And this is the expanded edition. So they found some more. I learned that the rabbis were not squeamish about life. They weren't squeamish about insulting their colleagues and their students. I just want to rattle off a few of the things that they said. They said that Rabbi Abba Bar Chana is as stupid as a donkey. Rabbi Yochanan said to a student of his, you're an empty-headed person. Somebody called Rabbi Abahu a demented bird. Rabbi said to his colleagues that they should have their tongues cut out. Rabbi said that Levi had no brains in his head. Some students called their teacher a reed cutter in the swamp. Rabbi Nachman said to a colleague of his, he must be playing board games and neglecting his studies. Rav Chia, and Abaye all said the same thing to a colleague once, at least once. He said, you idiot. Ula said to Rav Huna that he was as disagreeable as vinegar on the teeth and smoke in his eyes. Rabbi Hanina said to his colleagues, may God save us from your illogical understanding. Shmuel said to Karna, may a horn grow out of your eyes. Shmuel said to Rabbi Elazar, you should be fed animal fodder. Rav Sheshet said to a colleague, may you be stung by a scorpion. And Shmuel said to Rav Chama, your brain is disconnected. So this book goes on to talk about lots of other curses and insults. And it makes me feel that you have to be tough when you're studying. That these weren't really insults that these great sages said to each other. They were just euphemisms. They were expressions for objections or whatever. I know that Rabbi Steinsaltz used to complain to me that I wasn't tough enough, that I was too delicate. And obviously, I wouldn't fit into this group of sages who seem to be very relaxed about giving these insults to people. So my contribution today is not so much a conclusion as much as it is a question. And the question is, to what extent do we use this kind of language And what does it mean? Just want to say one more thing. Rabbi Steinsaltz once said to me that there's a passage in the Talmud that is similar to the Zen koan. You know the sound of two hands clapping, but what is the sound of one hand clapping? It's a famous Zen koan, Zen riddle. So the Jerusalem Talmud says Rabbi Yochanan, wanting to make a point, began to wave his hands as though he was trying to clap with only one hand. Someone said to him, and can one clap with only one hand? And Rabbi Yochanan said, certainly not. I alone, without Reish Lakish, cannot say words of Torah. I'm eager to hear from my colleagues.
Thank you so much. Thank
Yes.
you. L'chaim. L'chaim.
Chaim.
We will soon see what a close student you have been, Arthur. We actually, in the yeshiva, on the computer, have a beautiful picture of the two of you, Arthur and Rabbi Steinsaltz, studying together Talmud. Thank you so much. After your words, Arthur, please, Rabbi Meni, you have a big challenge now after basically probably Arthur said all you wanted to say. What do you want to add? Or maybe argue?
Good evening. First of all, thank you all for coming and joining us in this marvelous evening. Thank you, Rabbi Falk and team of creating this opportunity. So, first of all, foremost, the first time I learned this Gemara with my father, I think it was 12, maybe 13. And this is one of this kind of Gemara, this kind of piece of Talmud, that by definition, one should not be learning ever. This entire page is a terrible page. From beginning to end, from the claim that certain kids or certain rabbis are not their own kids, to the enormous values that they have, and going down the hill from that notion. At the end of this Talmud, what bothers me the most, with the respect, the amount of cursing and insulting that rabbis were very common for treating each other because they were friendly. They were not insulting people because they were enemies. They were insulting people because they were friendly. Besides that, one of the things that really has a clutch there, something that bothers me tremendously, is that the reason Reish Lakish died is because Rabbi Yochanan literally killed her. In one way or another, it seems from the text, if you read the text fairly, or more, you read it properly, with the commentary attached, it seems that Rabbi Yochanan had the opportunity not once, not twice, thrice, to stop the death of Rabbi Yochanan, of Reish Lakish. Remember, I came to ask my father this, and we had this conversation, and I asked him about it, and he said, you're reading it differently. The way you should read it is that Rabbi Yochanan had to move on. Reish Lakish was no longer, even though Rabbi Yochanan is mourning for him, Reish Lakish is no longer the ultimate chavruta. Rabbi Yochanan said to Reish Lakish, I did whatever I can do for you. I brought you to faith. I brought you back from being a thief, a goon, capo di tutti of the local mafia. I brought you in to become under the wings of the Holy One. This is what I can do for you. That is something that I found in my father's life that is tremendously odd. My father, in his youth, he was 16, early 20s, maybe beginning the 30s, had chavrusa, had people he actually learned with who were his teachers, his masters, people that he looked up to, Rabbi Sasonkin, Rabbi Kesselman, Rabbi Eliezer, and others. At a certain point of time, which is a bit coinciding with the creation of the Talmud, first volume, first edition, my father stopped learning with people as an equal. In a way, he already understood that he has a different mission. He has a different role in life, that not everybody will enjoy or appreciate. He moved his alliance, he moved his thought process, so to speak, on a brutal level to, in a lot of ways, to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. There's a point there that is the person who guides them. Sometimes directly, sometimes not directly, but that's the person. I think that the yearning of Rabbi Yochanan to have someone he can talk with, somebody that he can relate to, is the desire and the hope of every great man. Rabbi Yochanan is claiming he's not getting upset or getting consoled by the suggestion of the rabbis to try to find a guy who will be replacing Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan is saying to himself, I cannot find solace, I cannot find peace and tranquility because my level of where I was with Reish Lakish can never be attained. The fact is that I miss my father very much. The fact is that he's not with us physically. The fact is that a lot of us who had opportunity to learn with him, who study under him, miss him. The challenge for us is to move forward. Challenge for us is to find the right method to bring his words and not just keep them on the shelf or now online, but really keep them moving ahead with them. There are basic three things how to do it. One is a person has to learn by himself. He cannot keep the book or the website closed. A person has to learn. Two, a person has to teach. A person has to get out of his way and find opportunity to teach other people. That's part of what we see from Rabbi Yochanan. The conversation between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish created a learning opportunity, a learning vision, a learning concept. Also Rabbi Yochanan himself, even though he was the master, when Reish Lakish was the student, by learning together, he increased his own learning, he increased his own knowledge. And by that, he moved forward. That's a challenge. Take the materials of Rabbi Steinsaltz on the plethora that we have of them, take them, learn them, teach them. The most important thing, and I think that is what was meant to do with all this tremendous work. My father tried to create a teacher on everybody's pocket. That was the main purpose of doing the Talmud. That was the main purpose of doing the Bible. The idea is to bring it forward. How one does it, that's really up to you. I have my mission. My father was very clear to me what was my mission, and I will keep doing it on. Our goal is to find this way. How word is that even if somebody come and tell you, I have somebody who's almost as good, as clear, as illuminary as Rabbi Steinsaltz, you have to look at him like Rabbi Yochanan looked at the new replacement of Reish Lakish. Say it's good, but I can do better. So that hope of moving forward constantly and making my father, the rabbi message alive and kicking, sometimes insulting. L'chaim, l'chaim.
L'chaim. Thank you, Rabbi Meni. L'chaim. Rabbi Alush, please add your own insights on this piece of Talmud. Rabbi Yochanan, Reish Lakish, please join us.
Well, it's a pleasure being here. And Shakoach, Rabbi Micho, Rabbi Ariel, and everyone involved for putting this together. As someone who was born in France, I have to also commend you for the upgrade on the L'chaim. I see you saying L'chaim on wine instead of some cheap vodka. Shakoach. L'chaim, l'chaim.
L'chaim, l'chaim.
As Arthur did also, I do want to relate not just to the end of that discussion in the Talmud, but also, and most importantly, to the beginning of it. And I do think that both the beginning and the end are interconnected in ways that may be overlooked. But the relationship between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, as that beginning of the passage says, is an interesting one. It's not just an interesting one because of the complexity of the relationship, but because of the way it began. How did it begin? Rabbi Yochanan was swimming in the Jordan River, right? That's that part of the Talmud, just a few verses before what you were showing. He was swimming in the Jordan River, and here comes Reish Lakish, who was a chief bandit. And he jumps to the point that Rabbi Yochanan is so impressed with his jump, the strength of his jump. And then Rabbi Shlakish pursues Rabbi Yochanan because apparently he was a very handsome man. Now, I want to pause this for a second and ask everyone here, what would you do at that point? A John Gotti comes to you and he's pursuing you. Most people would escape. No one would very few people would dare even engage in a conversation with the chief bandit of the time. And if you do have to engage in a conversation, it will be a very polite one in which you try to, again, find favor in the eyes of the chief bandit. But instead, what does Rabbi Yochanan himself do? He says to him so blatantly, your strength, Reish Lakish, should be channeled towards Torah. If you channel your strength towards studying Torah, you'll be a great scholar. And Reish Lakish then says, well, what am I going to get in return? Or as they put it today, what's in it for me? And Rabbi Yochanan says, you see how handsome I am? Well, I have a sister who's even more beautiful than I am. I may convince her to become your wife if you do so. Reish Lakish is convinced, and that's how he becomes his student. Now, towards the end of his life, after Reish Lakish, towards the very end of that passage, after Reish Lakish passes on, then Rabbi Yochanan bemoans the fact, as we just read, right, that no one is as questioning as Reish Lakish was, and apparently he also is unconsolable. What's the connection between the end and the beginning? The connection is that Rabbi Yochanan was a man who, like Rabbi Steinsaltz, did not see bodies. He saw souls. He did not see chief bandits. He saw their infinite potential. And he immediately, without hesitance, even though he was speaking to a chief bandit, aims to ignite that soul, that potential. And he did so successfully. Reish Lakish could have remained the chief bandit the rest of his life, but because of Rabbi Yochanan's vision and because of his courage to ignite that soul, Reish Lakish's life was transformed, and thereby his students' lives were transformed, and dare I say, a whole generation was transformed. But that is exactly what we see towards the conclusion of that passage too. Rabbi Yochanan is bemoaning the fact that no one is questioning like Reish Lakish was questioning, because in other words, he's telling his students, why aren't you actualizing your full potential? You have so much to offer. You have so much to grow into. You have so much to challenge. You have so much to say that will make me, as your teacher, Rabbi Yochanan, grow. And yet you're staying quiet. Where is that soul? That's what's shouting from those concluding verses. And again, I think that's really what Rabbi Steinsaltz taught us all. Not to just be or judge a book by its cover, as they say, or to be satisfied with the externalities of this world, but rather to continually dig deep and deep and deep so that we can uncover the tremendous potential and the divine soul indeed that there is in everyone and in everything. You know, I'm reminded of the words of Chief Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs of blessed memory at Rabbi Steinsaltz's 80th birthday. If you recall his speech, I had the immense privilege of being there, and thank you for that, Rabbi Manny. But one of the things Rabbi Sachs shared about Rabbi Steinsaltz is that he had asked him, after the fall of the Iron Curtain in 1991, if there is one book that Rabbi Steinsaltz would recommend that all Soviet Jews should read. And Rabbi Steinsaltz immediately said, yes, I think they should all be reading The Ugly Duckling by Chris Anderson, some Danish poet and author. And Jonathan Sachs was taken aback. What do you mean? You're not even suggesting a Jewish book. And Rabbi Steinsaltz explained, well, this is a story about an egg that was hatched. And this new bird now finds himself among ducks. But he's really a swan. And the ducks the family of ducks that he was born into, judge him. He's ugly. They can't recognize a duck in him. Now, this swan, believes that he's indeed a duck, because that's what people have telling him have told him his whole life. And to make a very long story short, at one point, this ugly duckling finally realizes that he's not a duck, that he's a swan, and that he has wings with which he can fly. This was the point of Rabbi Steinsaltz's recommendation, to tell these Soviet Jews, you may have been now completely paralyzed by the Soviet Union. Communism may have stifled your growth, but remember, you're a swan. You have wings with which to fly. Your potential is infinite. I remember being with Rabbi Steinsaltz in so many different circumstances, in which Rabbi Steinsaltz repeated that point time and time again. Right here in Scottsdale, Arizona, he told someone in our community, hey, imagine that you are flying a plane and then all of a sudden you fall asleep and the plane will crash. Well, God gave you a plane to fly. Why are you falling asleep? In another instance, and I can go on and on. I know you told me to speak for only 3 and 4 minutes, Rabbi Michal. But, Rabbi Kurzweil and Rabbi Meni and Rabbi Michal spoke for a few more. So I'm going to borrow some
L'chaim, Rabbi Alush.
But in another instance, I was going to say, I remember Rabbi Steinsaltz telling me that he believes that every Jew should have 2 bodyguards. Every Jew should have 2 bodyguards walking with him everywhere. I said, why? He said, one bodyguard to make sure that they don't trample and destroy everything. That's number 1. Number 2, so that they can remind them and whisper in their ears that they were born to be great. And that's really what Rabbi Steinsaltz saw in people, saw in things altogether. That I think had become his life calling, his life mission, to turn what others may define as mediocre into what they really were, which means great things. And that's what he wanted to make of each and every one of us. We can't just settle for less. There's so much more. Or in his own words, the sky that is above our head today should become the ground on which we tread on tomorrow. Every single day we must grow and grow and do more and do more. And there is never a time in which we can just say that we've arrived. So I think that as we gather here, it would behoove everybody, every single one of us, including myself, to ask ourselves, how can we actualize our infinite potential, our divine soul, even more? How can we say to ourselves, that my strength should really be channeled and again, exercised to its full potential? How can I continue to grow more and more as Rabbi Steinsaltz would want me to? If we can answer that question, I think we will be able to say what the Talmud says, Mazaro b'chaim, afu b'chaim. Just as we are alive with his legacy, the legacy of unstoppable growth, so too Rabbi Steinsaltz continues to be alive in us, with us, and through us and through our actions. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim.
L'chaim, Rabbi Alush, thank you so much. We now have a very special surprise. Rabbi Steinsaltz actually related exactly to this very special relationship between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish in a very short video that we all will watch right now. L'chaim.
You can have people doing things. You can have a certain amount of quarrel, a certain amount of disagreement. Disagreement is not the end of the world. Disagreement can be the beginning of the world. Disagreement can bring new understanding. And sometimes the role of a question, of a query, of a contesting point is as important as a supporting point. See, you have it's a wonderful, it sounds like a Zen sentence. See, that Rabbi Yochanan who was the great scholar and so on. He had his brother-in-law they were always disputing. Every time there was a dispute between them. So there was a time when Reish Lakish, the father-in-law, had to hide, and they asked the president of the place, asked asked Rabbi Yochanan to say. Rabbi Yochanan tried to make a movement as if clapping hands with one hand. So he said, I cannot do it with one hand. I need two hands. So I say, he's always asking you questions. So of course, he asks me a question. I answer. I give him an answer. He asks another question. I give him a better answer. And so on. That's how the Torah goes. If there are no questions, there won't be any answers.
L'chaim, everybody, again. Thank you so much. I think what we heard from Arthur, from Rabbi Alush, from Rabbi Mene, and of course from Rabbi Adin, Rabbi Steinsaltz, there were very different angles on different parts of the piece of Talmud, but all were looking for that passion, that juice that is within Yiddishkeit, within Judaism. We need to grow. Judaism needs to grow, and the Jewish people need to grow together. And that diversity, that seeking for knowledge, let my people know, can be the way that we all together, we don't need to agree, we don't need to be yes men. As Rabbi Yochanan said to Rabbi Elazar Pedat, and I really could imagine Rabbi Steinsaltz over there looking into our eyes as students. And he would always tell us, I want you as students to challenge. A good student is the student that challenges his teacher. And therefore, within our very challenging situation over here in Israel, I'm sure all of you around the world are aware of what is going on over here in Israel. And the truth is, I think that the same in many aspects is what's happening in America, in South America, in Europe. Everybody's looking for that very pleasant, comfortable space where he can feel at home, and he wants to see those yes men saying yes. The Braita says just like you say. We all agree. But the truth is that Rabbi Steinsaltz and the Talmud that he loved so much were so much an issue of challenging, of diversity, of arguing. And that is the way that we can grow, that we can be excited about our Judaism, we could be excited about our truth. Because just to hear that we are always correct and that we are always right and that we are in our comfort zone, that doesn't make us grow, that doesn't make us bigger. Rabbi Steinsaltz would always end his classes as a young student at the age of 14. He would always tell us at the end, okay, Rutzu, you now need to go run. He would give us the very famous medrash that there is over there, a mazal that would come and say to you, Gdal, you need to grow, you need to be bigger. And I think in many ways, that is the vision that we all can take upon ourselves by learning the Talmud, by arguing, by challenging our teachers, our students, our chavruta, and together we will make the Jewish world and the world as a whole a better, livelier place. L'chaim.